They have some updates about some of the features that we've requested to the steering committee. So Kurt.
All right, so I'm really gonna give 5 seconds and I'm gonna hand it over to Ken because I'd rather have more demo time than me talking. But I want to let everybody know, I know on this call, I sent a couple emails on Friday to start some of your guys' conversations. If you guys have any questions about those emails, I mean, again, we're looking for general information and we're looking for how your apprenticeship might differ from everybody else. You know, we're looking for, you know, any type of state documents that you have to turn into, stuff like that. As you'll see here in a second, the reason why we're asking for your standards is, you know, you'll be able to plug your standards directly into this application and be able to move on from there. And so there's a lot of cool features in this application. But if you guys have any questions, I know I've talked to a couple of you already. You know, really, I'll just hand it over to Ken and I'll let him share his screen. Can you share your screen? Cool.
I can.
All right. Well, I'll hand it over to Ken, let him introduce himself, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Green. I'm the CEO and founder of Union Track, and I'm rapidly approaching, I've got about 15 days and I'll officially have been supporting labor for 23 years. We kicked off this new project in January. We've been working closely with both the headquarters and FTI and many district councils. We've probably covered the most ground with DC6. So I'm going to sort of focus on their program because we've learned the most about it. As Kurt has mentioned, we've got extensive data from other district councils, including 78, 16, 51, 14, 30, and I think the most recent one is 82. So when we set out to do this, after having supported other union apprentice training programs, including the painters in their job corps program, I've got about a decade of experience working with them, although I haven't worked with them in the last couple of administrations. Very familiar with those programs. If we looked at the approach that we've taken, if we started with the national training standards, and I'm going to kind of show that last, but if we took the standards and then we brought it down to the district council, and then from the district council, we looked and District 6, I believe, has 35 distinct programs. And we'll just go into one of them here and talk a little bit about it. If we start basically with the idea that we want to get data back out, in order to do that, in order to do either reports to Rapids, reports to the state apprenticeship program, reports that may go up to the U.S. Department of Labor, we're trying to basically seed sort of the foundation with all the data points that we might need that would then get placed into a report. We also have it structured so that if you have different probationary periods, whether those are in months or in hours, there's a lot of flexibility that's built into this. As we look at the heart of, my apology, I actually wanted to look at 3.7 Glacier. I clicked on the wrong one there. Sorry about that. If we look at the heart of the what we call facets, they are a combination for every trade we've looked at so far really has two pieces. Used to be on-the-job training, now it's commonly referred to as on-the-job learning. We can then look to how you'd like to track the progression of that through the reporting of time. We can do everything from pass-fail to just gaining proficiencies. And then again, if we took the national standards and laid that in, and in your particular area, either you have different building or construction codes or different state requirements and need to make individual adjustments for your program, you're just making adjustments, either adding or taking away from those. It's also strongly desired that we tie the elements of training together to the FTI standards. And again, I'll show you that as we kind of dive a little deeper into this particular program. So if we go back up and we take a look at another facet, in this case, it's related instruction. The same principle would apply here. You know, if we looked and said, you know, for this particular craft in this particular area, we need to adjust those to 60 hours. I can move those up. If we need to lower that down to 40, those are simple, easy changes for you to make. The next component or the facet of this is the progression of the apprentice wages. Now, this program also has a little bit of uniqueness in that the entry level starts at a whole dollar amount. In this case, it's $15. And then as you move forward through the training increments, and those increments are combinations of obtaining required OJL and related instruction, you can see that if we look at 65% of this journey worker's wage, the applicable date of that, thinking that those are going to increase as we move forward, that we can help not only structure and store that, but we're also working on building the templates to say, matter of fact, DC6 reached out today with the individual apprentices in the month of April that are coming up and becoming eligible for this progression. And one of their questions was, could we build a template that would actually generate the yes, you've obtained the required amount of both OJL and RI to increase. That could also include communications back out to the contractor, the employer, notifying them to raise those wages. Our approach to this is to basically build sort of a national recommended template that you could then copy, tailor, make specific for your individual district council or your specific program. And then once you have that, each time you need to use that, you'll have an easier path forward. If you need to make micro adjustments on that moving forward, you're changing your template, not the templates of other district councils and not the national level. This is just for illustrative purposes, but if there are specific courses that are complementary or are required for this particular program, we can associate those courses here, and we'll show how we'll do that in just a moment. If we look at the individual students that are enrolled or active in this program, I can easily get down to this. And again, there's more information that can be displayed here. I just did a quick rolled up so you can kind of get an idea about how the sum of all those parts fit together. Any documents or notes that are assistive in delivery of this sort of on a consistent basis. I know in Ohio, for an example, they have multiple training centers. So the idea would be if they put this together at the district council and you had an instructor that maybe moved to another training center, they could get back into the Unite platform and actually grab those supportive materials if they needed them. We also thought it would be helpful to just one click and say, you know, we call this a tear sheet. So in other words, if we pulled this down and said, what's the heart of this particular training program? You know, again, these program codes, we're probably going to build this out to include a few more, but these are some of the main ones. If we look at the combination of the categories and the individual OJL and the RI that are required in this program, and then another kind of key component that I think is tied to this would be, especially if you're talking to someone new to the program, you know, here's an idea where you can visually take a look at it and see the progression of those wages. Now, if we look at the maintenance of some of these areas, one of the things that we've done is we've pulled in, and I believe there's 1,582 individual courses. So we got a one-to-one match there with FTI's records. We're also matching sort of common nomenclature. So the code there is tied back to the LMS. We, in a demo last week for the finishing trades, we demonstrated, you know, sort of an early adoption, a proof of concept, a single sign-on, so that if you're signed into Unite and you want to traverse over to the learning management system, you can kind of one click and get over there. If we look at an individual instance of one of these courses, we have what we call classes. And once again, I pulled some historical information. So there really was a forklift class that was out there, started at this date, ended at this time, was held at this date. Some of the other things that we've been talking about is capturing sort of key components of your entire training program. How much square foot, how many classrooms, in the classrooms, you know, how many seats could you hold if you had a computer lab as an example. We could attribute the individual instructors that delivered this particular class, the students that participated or they were supposed to participate in that class. We can capture attendance here for this particular class. So the idea here is you got everybody in the room, the instructor's getting ready to kick the class off. They could quickly go through and take attendance. Another concept that we're pursuing is if we know that this particular class is going to be 3 hours of instruction, that we could actually uniformly then take, if there were 16 participants and they all attended the class, we could actually record that 3 hours of related instruction for all 16 kind of with a click of a button. So we're trying to look at both sides of not just the data entry, but how we can make things a little bit easier for your instructors. Couple of other quick pieces here. Any communications that are sent from Unite about this particular class, I could actually click here and see emails or text messages. We also have the ability to do, if you're interested, the end of the class survey can be delivered on the platform here as well. Once again, documents or note about this specific class. And we also have the ability to basically build, as an example, like we're doing here, you could build the Zoom instance for this class within the Unite program without having to go to Zoom, and then send the communication out, inviting those people to it. Couple of other areas just to touch on at a high level. If we looked at, the concept again to doing these things in bulk. So if we looked at the 3D7 Glazier program, I know we've got a number of students that are in there. And the idea here would be, and it's not a perfect world, but if it were, we could say, select all students, and then maybe say this is not applicable to these two. And then I can actually go down and identify targeted areas to say that this group of individuals either perform this on-the-job learning task or this particular related instruction class. Now, just to illustrate sort of the idea of taking a national standard or taking sort of a document template, I'm going to go back out to my programs. And I'm going to open up my perspective to the international. And so for an example, if I were working directly with DC 78, and let's say that they've got a drywall finisher trade, then I can actually copy the national standard. Hold on, trying to get my mouse to cooperate here. Okay, sorry. Couldn't get the mouse to recognize the click there. I could then go through and then make my micro adjustments here. So for an example, for the delivery of the drywall finisher program for DC 78, this is going to be 40 hours. And then I can go through, and as I make my adjustments, I can save those and move those forward. Whoops, the Zoom window's over the top of what I need here. And the same thing, it started for the progression of the journey worker wages. Basically, once I lay that in and then build the progression of those wages out. And again, I think I can illustrate that for you here. So let's say the journey worker wages are $28. This is effective as of April 1st. I can go through and then build my level out and say that in this case, that first step is 50%. And they need to get in 6 months of training or 6 months increment, if that's how the program's defined. And now I can actually specify here that they need to get 750 hours of OJL and 80 hours of related instruction. And I can start building that block out from there. So again, just so an idea of the approach that we're going to take, sort of the simplicity of that, some of the benefits of taking that kind of an approach. In the next presentation, when we get back together again, I'd like to demonstrate that the document template that we have. We already have a couple of those that are worked out, and then we'll take that same kind of approach. Right now, we're working, as I mentioned earlier, with DC6. So we do have some of their correspondence that they're using today. We're just trying to basically weave that in so that we can demonstrate that for you. And the last thing I wanted to show you is very much like a training roster might be. We have that same approach structured here. We currently have sources from IMSE, Some of the district councils are using other apprentice training programs. We're looking at a few of those. Many have either Access databases or Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. What we're trying to do is to build a template that we can easily load data in. And again, just to give you an idea how the roster feature will work, one of the students that's active in that 387 program's last name is Engel. So I can kind of filter down to just get down to that record, and then I can actually climb into the record. And again, just one piece here to kind of show you, we did sort of a snapshot to say, for this particular apprentice, where are they in the program? You know, how many hours do they have? When did they start? When did we expect them to finish? And, you know, sort of, again, other detailed information about that. So Kurt, that's everything I kind of wanted to put in front of the group today. And I guess I'll just open it up for any questions, comments, or feedback.
So just wanted to, highlight a couple different things too. So one, I made Ken speak really, really fast, told him he only had about 15 minutes. So that's why we went very fast through a lot of stuff there. There is a lot more details into everything we kind of went through, but I said, you got to run through it. One of the things I want to highlight real quick too is communications. He kind of blurred over the communications in terms of inside of that class. One of the cool things this program will have is communications throughout, right? So you'll be able to text message all your apprentices. You'll be able to text message all your level 1 apprentices. You'd be able to send emails out to them. And every time a communication goes out, it's tracked. Not only, like, for instance, if you're emailing that class, it'll be tracked in the class, but it'll also be tracked on the member record, right? So if you want to say, hey, we sent emails out last week and he said, well, I didn't get it. You'll be able to look up his member record to actually see that it went to him, it was delivered, and if he actually opened the email. And so we can tell certain things like that. I know a lot of people have problems with people saying they didn't get things or stuff like that. So there's a lot more to the communications module. And I know we're focusing on Apprentice, but that is part of this as well. And there's been a lot of things that some people have been asking for in this group. So that is kind of a big highlighted item. But with that, really, Donna, I'll hand it over to you, or if anybody has any quick questions for Ken, we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, if you have any questions for Ken and Kurt, Mike? Yeah, so as Kurt mentioned, this is just a quick demo of what's to come. So we're still finalizing like the point of entries or the data transfer between the systems. So there won't be any duplication in terms of admin work. So we'll see more of Ken in the coming months, and Kurt will provide us the timeline once that's available and the rollout plans for the apprenticeship database. Okay, thank you, Kurt and Ken. Okay, we covered